Revision is the most essential part to the routine of a Hafidh. If you feel like you struggle with revision and you're unsure about how to do it, this video is for you. There are 3 steps you need to take in order to revise the Quran daily and effectively. When you're starting off in your Hifdh journey, revision feels like an overwhelming task. You've memorized so much Quran, but you don't know how to retain all this information. I remember when I first started my Hifdh journey, I found revision very interesting because of how much work was required to effectively revise. I took 3 essential steps throughout my Hifdh journey which allowed me, by the help of Allah, to remain consistent in my revision. So the first step is to decide on the amount of pages you can read every single day without fail. Confusion hinders practice. If you're confused as to what you're supposed to do, how are you going to execute anything meaningful? So if you are not decided on how many pages you're going to be revising daily, you will end up revising nothing. And what ends up happening is that if you don't set for yourself a daily amount of Quran to read, you will end up losing the habit of revision. Because you don't have certainty on how many pages you will read, it doesn't even reach the level of a habit. It's something you can do and something you can miss. At the very start of my Hifdh journey, I made sure I defined exactly what I would be revising every day. I understood that if I was confused as to how many pages I'm going to revise, I would never revise properly. So you need to decide on how many pages you are going to be revising every day and set the bar really low. Ideally, you want to finish everything you memorized in 1 month maximum. If you have memorized 8 juz, for example, which is 160 pages, then you would revise 5 pages per day to finish in 1 month. Now, if that is too much, you can always reduce it. If you're not able to revise 5 pages per day, you can make it 3 pages. Now, you might be thinking, if I only revise a few pages per day, will it slow me down? It actually will not, because a consistent habit you do is better than a random habit you miss many times. So if you convince yourself that you're going to revise the Quran every single day with this specific amount, then you have completed the first step and you're on the right track. Which brings us to the next step, which is you need to decide on the times you will read your specific amount of pages. Allocating the correct times for your revision sessions will determine whether you revise or not. Because if you fail to spend time on your revision, your time will be spent on all sorts of other tasks. This is one of the greatest things that I personally struggled with, which is maintaining a consistent schedule. I honestly can't remember the last time I did a task exactly at the same time that I wanted to do it. If I wanted to start revising, for example, at 3 p.m. in the evening, it would usually be 30 minutes after or before. But one thing I can say that helped me is that I set for myself rough schedules instead of fixed ones. A rough schedule, for example, is when you tell yourself, I'm going to revise at 3 p.m. in the evening. That way, you don't have to force yourself to start exactly at 3 p.m., but rather around that time. You also need to have multiple revision sessions instead of doing it all in one sitting, because having multiple sessions actually allows you to read more pages in total, since you refresh your mind between the breaks. And based on how much you're revising per day, you can have 1 to 3 sessions. The point is, you can have multiple revision sessions in a day so you can break down the workload so you don't have to do it all at once. And do not revise at times when your mind is not fully present, because revision takes a lot of focus since you're retaining what you memorized. A prime example of when not to revise is at nighttime, because I've tried that before and it only puts more stress on you and you never get to read the amount you plan to. Moving on to the final step, which is you need to increase your revision slowly in accordance to what you get used to. Over time, the more you memorize, you will start to realize that you need to increase your daily revision amount. This is where most people get it extremely wrong because of their lack of patience. Most people overestimate themselves by forcing themselves to review many juz per day, which inevitably leads them to burnout because they did not build themselves to that point. You need to get used to reading a small amount of revision for 2 weeks, and then and only then can you increase it by a little bit. You might be thinking that waiting 2 weeks before increasing your revision is too slow, but you should know that with patience, real progress is made. If you rush through increasing more pages to read daily, you will eventually burn out. So if you revise 5 pages per day for 2 weeks straight, then you can increase it by a little bit. So going from 5 pages, you can increase it to 8 pages per day and stick to that for 2 more weeks. And once your revision increases to many pages per day, such as 1 juz, which is 20 pages, then you should only increase it after 3 to 4 weeks. The more you increase your pages, the more you need to take time before increasing it to the next daily amount. When I used to revise, I always used to force myself to revise 1 to 2 juz. Alhamdulillah, I maintained it for a long time, but there was a time where I got burnt out and my revision ended up reducing by a little bit. What I should have done is built my way up to revising 2 juz. I should have started with perhaps 1 juz daily and then slowly build my way up to 2 juz. So once you are able to effectively increase your daily amount, you can stop at where you're comfortable. For people who have finished the Quran, the goal is to revise 3 juz per day, which would mean you finish in 10 days. And if you want to increase that, you can read 1 manzil per day, which means you finish the Quran in 7 days. So taking all this into account, revision is not something difficult or only for a select group of people. Revision is simply allocating times throughout the day to revise what you memorized whilst increasing the amount. If you apply these 3 principles I mentioned in this video, you are set in stone to retain what you memorized. Remember, revision is what determines whether you succeed in Hifdh or not. Without revision, there's no Hifdh. If you benefited from this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.